So first up, we are going to Texas. There was a concert last week that took a tragic turn. That's where at least 8 people died and 25 were hospitalized. And that was at rapper Travis Scott's Astroworld Festival. And it was during his performance in Houston. So while the investigation we know is still ongoing, we do have a number of details. And it starts with how the melee really broke out. The sold out crowd of 50,000 had reportedly rushed toward the stage as Scott performed, really compressing everyone together. And I'm sure you have heard about this. Now, according to the Daily Beast, fans were jammed in so tightly they couldn't breathe, and outnumbered medics were quickly swamped as lifeless bodies were pulled from the crowd. Some medics didn't know how to administer CPR or take pulses. Concert goer Madeline Eskins, an ICU nurse who has worked in the ER, said. Now, Houston Police Chief Troy Finner said a mass casualty declaration was triggered around 9:30 p.m., about half an hour into Scott's set, and first responders arrived about 2 minutes later. However, Travis Scott's performance didn't end until 10:10. So that means that Travis Scott and co, they continued to play for about 40 minutes after officials had declared this as a mass casualty event. And the police chief also, well, he hinted at the possibility of foul play here as to why security didn't stop the concert. And this is what he said. He said that we do have a report of a security officer, according to the medical staff, that treated him last night. And he was reaching over to restrain or grab a citizen and he felt a prick in his neck. Now, as far as how Scott responded, what we do know is that Scott stopped the show at least 3 times to ask for help for stricken concert goers. That's what audience member Nick Johnson and Angel Rodriguez told CNN. And here is one of those clips where Scott had stopped the concert.
Now what? Somebody help him, somebody pass it right here. Oh. Somebody pass it right here. Hold on, don't touch him, don't touch him. Somebody just back up. Katie, somebody help jump in real quick. Keep going, just keep it this way. Somebody jump in, come on, come on.
That kind of signaled that Scott knew something was going on to the extent that he had to stop the concert. But still at the same time, we know that people were seen dancing on top of emergency vehicles, that there was a lot of screaming going on, and that also fans were trying to communicate, at least those who were on the perimeter and could see, or people who were involved and could speak, that they were chanting, "Stop the show." Check out this clip here. It looks like they did their best. Francesca, how does this sit with you?
I mean, it's incredibly tragic and upsetting, right? It's a nightmare scenario to feel like there is no escape and you're being trampled to death. You're seeing people die in front of you and no one's actually taking you seriously or listening to you. So just like, I am chilled hearing the details of this. But as you hear more and more, we see that there were warning signs from the beginning, and good on Scott for at least stopping a little bit. But how are you continuing the show for 40 minutes after it was already declared a mass casualty event? 8 people are dead. Like, at what point do you just cut your losses? And I know that at this point, Scott is issuing refunds to concert goers. You probably wouldn't have had to issue a refund if no one had died and you stopped, right? And you reconvened or whatever. You hold off for like an hour. Like, there are ways to avoid this, and initially seeing the way that people are crowded in, seeing the way that people are already being pushed and squeezed before the show even starts. We all know the moment the concert starts, right? It's like that people descend. But even if it's already a problem before that, that should be a sign to all folks. So I don't know where the breakdown of communication happened. I don't know, I'm curious as to your thoughts on, I know there's some history here of Scott encouraging folks to kind of like, get crazy. But this seemed to be obviously way too much.
Yeah, no, and we'll definitely dive into Scott's history. The thing that gets me is, number one, you knew there was a problem. You had some indicia of there being a problem. And I get it that at these mass concerts, because there are so many people involved, that there probably, unfortunately, is maybe 1 to 2 deaths at every major, huge festival, because you have to consider drug use as well as just medical conditions. Also, if people are out in sun exposure for long periods of time, that's why you have medics on site. But in this situation here, when you are the headliner of the event, and it is your event, and also it should have tipped him off based on what I've seen in terms of responses from people and reports, is that essentially people rushed toward the stage, that they came in numbers, and it was 50,000 people. And it seems like, apparently, according to one concert goer, that all of them are rushing the stage. That kind of should have signaled to Travis that, hey, we might have a problem here. But I can definitely tell you it is signal to his people and his legal team that there is definitely a problem, because we know when there is any unfortunate tragedy, there will be lawyers. And so what we have heard so far is that a concert goer who was injured during the festival is suing the rapper and producer Travis Scott, who was the organizer of Astroworld Festival, as well as entertainment company Live Nation, concert promoter Score More, and others involved in the event. And that's according to the lawsuit, which was obtained by CNN. Now, this individual is seeking monetary relief up to about over $1 million. Also, we have recently learned that at least 20 lawsuits have been filed as of Monday evening. So there's no question here that people are going to be seeking damages, and there will be liabilities and conversations about how this could have been prevented. But there is no word quite yet as far as criminal lawsuits. But it seems that Travis Scott does know that there is a problem, and he issued this response here on social media.
To the ones that was lost last night, we're actually working right now to identify the families so we can help assist them through this tough time. You know, my fans really mean the world to me, and I always just really want to leave them with a positive experience. And anytime I can make out, anything that's going on, I stop the show and, help them get the help they need, I could just never imagine the severity of the situation. We've been working closely with everyone to just try to get to the bottom of this. The city of Houston, HPD, fire department, everyone to, help us figure this out. So if you have any information, please just contact your local authorities.
So I really appreciate that Travis Scott encouraged people to speak with local authorities, and he did speak out, even though it would have been great to have something a little bit more professional and polished. Even though he did essentially undergo some extent of trauma, you would say, being in that environment. But Francesca, really, I guess, how does this resonate with you?
I mean, I think it's a lot of this, like, we will see, we do have to get to the bottom of it and understand how this could have happened. Concerts happen all the time. And yes, I understand, there are drug-related deaths and I hopefully, not heat exhaustion deaths, but like usually, thousands of people can be in one space together and do not trample each other. So what was actually going on? Right now, there's a 10-year-old fighting for their life, currently in critical care condition, who was at the concert and was trampled. So it's like, this is serious stuff. This is not good. And I know that even though he says that now, like, I'm wondering, and initially when this all broke, I was like, look, we should not blame the artist. We should not blame the artist's music. I've seen people say, like, well, he's got a rebellious style. It's like, it doesn't matter what kind of style the music is or what kind of, or anything, right? Back in the 80s and 90s and maybe even now, people are like, it's the rap music that is to blame. You're like, no, it's not. Sorry, struck out again. But I do know that Scott has encouraged people to kind of flaunt security. If a security guard was pricked in the neck with something, what does that mean? Are people coming in with weapons? And also, I'm not arguing to say to treat people like criminals, because imagine if they tried to disperse the crowd like they do so many crowds, as we have seen in the last year. It would have been even more chaos and pandemonium. There has to be, and there is, a better way.
Without question, and I love that you brought that up because yes, trying to disperse the crowd, no, that's a potential riot kind of situation because people want to see the headliner. They came there to see Travis Scott, arguably you could say, but him being the headliner there, that is a big deal. And so cutting it short in that moment, you do have to do crowd control, but the questions are pretty much the precautions that were taken. And with the police chief saying that, an officer said he was pricked in the neck, who knows if an officer was pricked in the neck or if it was just something else, or even if that story is true, I'm not giving any legitimacy to it. But what I could see that as is a ploy to essentially say that there was an intervening factor, that there was some mischief or foul play in play that would have prevented security from actually doing its job and protecting people. But because there's a lot riding on the line in terms of you have to have law enforcement there, you have to have security there, you have to have EMS, and a lot of people are going to be out here essentially trying to protect their interests. But one thing that you had brought up, Francesca, it's important to dive into is that Scott has definitely gotten in trouble for dangerous behavior at previous concerts. Now, Scott has been arrested twice for disorderly conduct after inciting chaos at his shows. In 2015, he encouraged fans to jump the barricades at Lollapalooza. And in 2019, he was accused of inciting a riot at an Arkansas show. And so you do have to consider is there something about this individual and essentially the environments that he has not only cultivated, but encouraged that really maybe created this situation?
Yeah, it doesn't look good. And it doesn't look good on him, and he needs to do more than refund the tickets for people or like get to the bottom. There's going to be a lot of blame game going on, but 8 people is insane. It is a mass casualty event. It's a tragedy, but it could have been avoided.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, just like how we saw in Arizona with that show Rust and Alec Baldwin, if this will be a game changer in terms of the industry. So when it comes to festivals, if they are going to only allow a certain number of people past certain lines so that they can keep this under control, I don't know. But one thing I do know is that, of course, because the Kardashians are king in terms of news, that there was an article released by the Daily Mail that really decided to center Kylie and Kendall Jenner. Check this out, this headline. And mind you, Kylie is pregnant with Scott's second child, but of course, centered them, even though they were not harmed or involved. But to those of you who care, there you go. The Jenner Kardashian crew are okay, but there are a lot of people in need right now.
At least someone is looking out for them, if not their billions of dollars.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.